A brief response to the Gettier case. So I've been watching a podcast, one featuring Alex O'Connor of the Cosmic Skeptic YouTube channel, and within that podcast he was asked basically what something that's largely impactful has happened recently in philosophy. His response to this was to detail something called a Gettier case, which, after the bare bit of Googling that I did along with Alex's explanation, boils down to something like this. When we say we know something, what we mean is, at least since Plato's time, has been something along the lines of a justified true belief. And until 1963, when Edmund Gettier submitted his paper on the topic, it was basically held as infallible. Explaining JTB, or justified true belief, briefly, something like how Alex described it, is that there's three components to claiming to know something. You need to believe it to be true, it needs to be true, and you need to be justified in that belief. So, for example, if you look outside your window and you see a rainbow, this leads you to believe that there's a rainbow outside, and that fact turns out to be true. You can say that you know that there's a rainbow outside, because you have a justified belief, and that belief is true. For a counterexample, if you took, say, 20 grams of ketamine, and you believe there's a rainbow outside without actually going outside or looking outside, but there happens to actually be a rainbow outside, you wouldn't really say that you know that there's a rainbow outside. You can't claim to be justified in that belief. You believe there's a rainbow outside, you don't know that there's a rainbow outside. I won't bother debating what true belief or justification are. That's a completely separate debate basket that I have no eggs in and will never have any eggs in unless those eggs are metaphysical. The point is that a Gettier case supposedly upends this concept of a JTB equaling knowledge. The example I think Alex gives in the podcast is quite nice, but I'll explain the one given by Gettier himself first. Say you have a job interview, and you go in and you ace it. The interviewer says, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but I think you got this. You leave and you wait outside, as the other guy takes the interview too. While doing this, you notice that you have exactly 10 coins in your pocket. So you come to the conjecture that, based on a justified belief, the guy who's going to get a job has 10 coins in his pocket. However, it turns out that the other guy got the job, and somehow, by sheer coincidence or luck, he happens to have exactly 10 coins in his pocket. Now, you don't know why the other guy got it, and it may have been a mistake or something, right? But, you held a justified belief, and that belief turned out to be true. But it feels icky, doesn't it? Can you really claim to have known that the guy getting the job is going to have 10 coins in his pocket? And that's the Gettier case. The one that Alex gives in his podcast is a different example, one that he experienced in real life, actually, and I think it's a little bit easier to wrap your head around. He was in a car that was driving by a field, and there were a bunch of hedges, on the roadside. He saw a kid, a small child, whose head was going up and down behind the hedges. So he somewhat justifiably assumed that the kid was riding a horse. And as he was nearing the edge of the hedge, he again had a somewhat justified belief that he was going to see a horse. It turned out, however, that the girl was actually riding on her dad's shoulders. But by some sheer coincidence, a horse also walked out of the hedges at the same time. Here, can we really say that Alex knew he was going to see a horse? I mean, it was a justified belief, and it was a belief that turned out to be true, right? Well, here is where my response begins. There are three components to knowledge: belief, justification, and truth. In the Gettier case, it seems like all three components exist, so knowledge must exist. But there's just something off about the situation. It feels weird to claim that you know. Well, that's because there is. As I see it, while truth and belief exist in a Gettier case, justification doesn't. In the case Alex presented, for example, we actually see that he's not making a singular belief, but he's making two separate beliefs which lead to a singular conjecture. Of course, if both of those beliefs are justified and true, then you can claim to know the conjecture. That's how we live life, and that's how we talk about anything. But let's examine those beliefs in detail. He believes he's moving forward, and the girl is moving forward, and he's going to come to the end of the hedge soon. He's going to see whatever the girl is riding. He also believes that the girl is riding a horse. So he conjectures that he's going to see a horse as soon as he comes to the end of the hedge. Now, his conjecture is true. A horse does happen to be at the end of the hedge. But his first belief, that the girl is riding the horse, or the second belief, turns out to not be true. So you can't say that his conjecture was justified. For a conjecture to be justified, both beliefs that make up the conjecture, or both premises, must be true. And else, even if the conjecture is true, you wouldn't say it's justified. Here, the first belief is obviously true. He's moving past the hedge and he's going to come to the end of the hedge soon. The second belief, however, the girl is riding a horse, is not true. It turns out that the girl is riding her father. It was a justified belief, but it wasn't true. So just because he does end up seeing a horse, doesn't mean his conjecture is justified. The same holds true for the case of the man with 10 coins. His beliefs were, 1, that he has 10 coins in his pocket. This one is justified and true. Second, that he was going to get the job. This one is justified, but not true. And finally, he conjectures that the man getting the job will have 10 coins in his pocket. This one is true, and is definitely a belief, but it's not justified because his previous conjecture wasn't true. We can see that because it wasn't true that he was going to get the job, it's not a justified belief to believe that the man getting the job is going to have 10 coins in his pocket. It's about as justified as taking ketamine and believing there's a rainbow outside. Of course, you can use the line of reasoning of conjectures leading based on multiple justified true beliefs to argue about anything. It goes infinitely back. You can technically argue that every piece of knowledge is actually a conjecture that traces back to the belief that the material world exists, which is unprovable, so you can say that nothing matters, actually, but then I would call you a clearly proud graduate of the University of Reddit, and your feelings would be hurt, hopefully, and you would shut the fuck up, again, hopefully. But that was my brief response to the Gettier case. Thank you for watching. Like if you like, dislike if you don't. Subscribe if you want to see a second video sometime.